and moving them somewhere else will undoubtedly make them more expensive and again hit poor families. And let's not forget that thousands of jobs in the car industry would further hurt poor families, especially in South Auckland. This industry brings thousands of jobs to South Auckland and millions of dollars in economic value to South Auckland. And economic growth is about jobs. It's not about a cohort of people sitting around sipping lattes on the waterfront.
Exactly.
If the cars go, you can also say goodbye to the Mayor's promise of holding a rate increase to 2.5%. Let's not forget that the port earns over 4% of rates, and cars make up a good percentage of that. So we need to consider that the economic impact of removing the cars from the port. We also need to consider the fact that it's not just cars that come across that wharf. On the same ships, we have buses, we have construction equipment, we have trucks. Now, if we're going to move all that from the port, look, we need to think very, very, very carefully about this, councillors. We're all about saving money. We're all about making sure that we get value for money. This port and that particular business provides great economic benefits to this city, and we should think very carefully before we remove that. So I want to make sure that that particular bullet point is framed in such a way that we actually, that we're not instructing them to start work on removing cars from the port. We may look at something else, but certainly that car industry is worth a lot to us, and if we say goodbye to the cars, we say goodbye to those smaller rate increases that the Mayor is proposing.
So, Councillor Quacks, if you're just reading the wording carefully, it's actually how to reduce or eliminate the adverse impacts. It doesn't actually say remove the cars. Now, that may be a long-term thing, but it's just talking how could you actually reverse, as I say, reduce or eliminate the adverse impacts. And I think that's obviously visual pollution is really what the Mayor's referring to. So that's
what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, be clear.
Yeah, no, and I think maybe we could tighten it up, but I think it's talking about the adverse impact there, and I think rather than, hey, let's get rid of the cars, I'm not sure it's quite that blunt.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that is the most neutral possible recommendation I could make about a situation where the most valuable real estate in New Zealand is used as a used parking lot.
It's not used as a used parking lot.
Let me just clarify what the Chairman has just told you. Read carefully, investigate with the ports and any other relevant parties on how the adverse impacts of motor vehicles stored on the wharves can be reduced or eliminated. One option may be to get them off the wharf much more quickly, if you can deal with the quarantine and the inspection problems involved about it. Another option might be how you store them. I have left that bullet point open, despite my very strong views on it, that is not the most appropriate use for our waterfront. So I have met your concerns, I think, in the very clear wording that leaves open all of the options that should be looked at, having regard to the fact that vehicles coming into the port went up, we heard earlier today, by 22%, and we're going to reach capacity problems very soon. So we have to investigate how we deal with that problem. But it does leave the options open, therefore it does meet the concerns that you've expressed.
Can I just add, Chair, that the Ports of Auckland, I've been informed by John Crawford from ASIL that they are giving some thought to this, so it's not going to be a surprise to them. And it's just a case of we're inviting ASIL to work with the Ports of Auckland on what the options are.
Councillor Lee.
Yeah, well, now we're dealing with an agency that is the shareholder of real businesses. And I think we need to bear that in mind. And the income from those businesses, at least two of them, are a significant source of alternative fundings, and certainly underpin or subsidise, if you like, our rate demands, and need to be taken very seriously. On the last page, there is the standard drive down business costs, but no mention at all about encouraging enhancement of earnings or revenue, and I think that's applying the same template to what are in essence bureaucracies to this agency is probably not appropriate, and you need to take a more business-like approach to it. Now then, cars. Auckland's famous love affair with cars, it appears, is a little bit more complicated. There are other elements to it, more of a love-hate thing, it would appear. Now, I notice that ports feature in all the bullet points on the last page. There is nothing at all about Auckland International Airport. You know, I think we need to connect the dots here. Auckland International Airport needs to be invited to contribute to a solution or solutions to the growing congestion and accessibility problems around the airport. And that would be a major bullet point that I would suggest. Now, coming back to Ports of Auckland, I have to say in my experience that Ports of Auckland have not been as cooperative in the group, in the family, as one would like. But maybe it's a two-way street. Maybe we need to look at ourselves from their perspective when you look at these bullet points. Reclamation of land and wharf extensions, I completely support that and have completely supported that. But hang on, what about our own projected reclamation of the ferry basin? You know, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Ports would be aware of what we're trying to do down there. So let's be even-handed about this when we lecture the port company. Lead by example. Second thing, cars on the wharf. Dear me, Mr Mayor and members, go down to Queen's Wharf and look at all the cars that have been parked on Queen's Wharf and along the Wynyard Point, and then lecture the port company, which is engaged in commercial activity, which we share in. We take their money with both hands and we spend it. So I think Councillor Quack's, his advice needs to be listened to before we lecture the port company about, dear oh dear, you're importing cars, which we all drive. I think we need to look at our own records and our own stewardship of the waterfront in recent years, which is nothing to write home about. So I make that point as well. Thank you.
We're all looking forward to the Port Future Study coming back to Councillor Darby's committee, and then who knows how it might morph into something that comes to the Finance Committee regards where it's going to go. So, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. And I do actually agree with both gentlemen. You know, and maybe if we do really well on public transport, there'll be a natural reduction in car imports. But until that time, you know, we can't take the opportunity of some form of transport away from people. And I do think that we, you know, can't completely bow down to reverse sensitivity. That has been a port for, well, since before...
You don't want to speak?
Pre-European, you know, that's why it's called Te Waka Heranga. So for me, if the other thing is the perception that that's a car park, the turnaround's around 48 to 72 hours. You know, it's not the ports, it's getting the trucks there. So I think, you know, we've got to be a bit real about some of this stuff.
Shouldn't go through. But
So the other thing I wanted to say is on that third bullet point on key focus areas, I didn't think we had a view at the moment. We voted for a port future study. We didn't vote to stop reclamation or wharves or anything. That was a ruling by a judge on a controlled consent application that was given by a commissioner on council's behalf. So I'm sort of a bit concerned about saying, you know, making sure that they know what our view is. I don't think we have a view yet. We haven't had the Port Future study back. So I think that's somewhat unilateral. So, you know, I can't support that. Thank you.
Right, we're going to wrap it up now.
Got
I'll
it
just
in
say one more
unitary
thing, David and Eddie. Just work with council on any future plans for Auckland Film Studios. Shouldn't that be work with council and ATEED on any future plans for the film studios?
Sure.
Should have ATEED in there. Councillor Darby, yep.
Yep, so just finishing with all the CCOs. So just on this, I think the words are that the committee confirms the 2017-18 letters of expectation, etc., and then delegates authority to the mayor, because they actually are they are the LOEs of the whole of the council.
They have more oomph if they're actually got the body behind us, but we're just getting a bit of a constitution.
And that allows the mayor to refine them in consultation with the others.
Okay, we'll just get Phil to just confirm on this.
According to the best advice I've got, is that Phil? Yeah, I'll let him do it.
Well, just to confirm, the terms of reference for the Finance and Performance Committee are quite clear that the role of the committee is to advise the mayor, and the mayor has the role of finalising.
Yeah.
This resolution has it that he will do so in consultation with the chair.
Recommend, is it? Okay then.
That is under the terms of the committee.
Those are the formal terms of reference guiding this committee's mandate.
Yep, so
That's good.
I'm going to move this recommendation.
I'll
Do we have a
second
seconder? Councillor Simpson,
So just speaking to this, I know it's been laborious, but
okay.
this is actually, we should not do it like this next time. I know we've just got a new council, new mayor, and I appreciate the input, and I've had the opportunity, we have all had the opportunity to feed back, because we knew that these LOEs were coming, and I've provided some early input, and it's been incorporated, and I'm thankful for that. And then I've seen the LOEs. I actually did ask for them, and they took a while to come. They eventually came, and then I examined them again. And I expect us all to be doing that. When I came here 3 years ago, I remember the LOEs coming before this equivalent committee, and all I heard was, "I'll move, second, out the door." And I realised the importance of the LOEs and held the discussion up for some time, but there was so little engagement on the influence, control and direction setting of our CCOs. It was just quite outstanding. It stunned me. And it doesn't surprise me that there's been weak governance over the CCOs, and our communities have been asking for greater influence, direction setting and control. I think actually in this time round we are doing that, led, and I do acknowledge the mayor for strongly not just exerting but doing what is expected in legislation and of this council to show the way for the CCOs and not to accept the way that a CCO might be taking. So it's really important we do this, but I think next time we need to do it through a workshop and thrash all of this out prior. That's my learning from today. There's been some really good points raised. There's been some points that have been dismissed, even some of mine maybe, by members. Maybe it's just uncomfortable that we're not used to delving into this. So I think we actually need to have a willingness to listen to each other on this, because certainly our communities expect us to get stuck into this area of our work like almost no other area. These LOEs, once a year, informing the SOIs, are the most important communication to our CCOs. So I'll leave it at that. I think there's been some good contributions, and I think we'll get a very different response from our CCOs, a collaborative response in the year ahead.